I took the microphone into my hand and stood up. I felt the thunderous clapping in my ears for the storm that I knew I was bringing on. There was no turning back. Well, obviously seeing how happy everyone is today, I started off winging it. I was walking down the aisle and I nearly took Barry down with me when I slipped in Mr. Aiden's tears. Oh, thanks for catching me before I fell, oh great night. The crowd laughed generously while Barry gave me enough time in the day to scowl at me. Still, yeah. Well, not a lot of people know this, but I love weddings. I really do. I love it when two people who truly love each other come together and take a sacred vow before God and say, I love you and I will spend the rest of my life loving you and only you. That is the most beautiful thing in the world. I really love that and the way it makes me feel. Warm, soft, and at peace with everything in the world. People began to awe in response to my words, and I watched as the bride and groom shared a kiss. I took a deep breath. I remember when they got together back when we were in high school. It was so sweet, and it was so long ago. I remember when I saw them that night, I thought, they're going to make it. They're perfect for each other. I never thought there was a more perfect person for Daryl than Ariana. I looked over and saw Daryl look at Ariana with all the love that could possibly be in a human's heart. I took a deep breath. I could stand here all day and tell you all about what happened up to now. But you know that saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words? Well, I said, watching Jose roll the cart with the slideshow into the reception hall, I figured these pictures would say so much more than I ever could. I put the microphone down and nodded my head to him so he knew to turn on the projector. The big screen came down from the ceiling over the stage where the DJ stood. When the DJ moved off of the stage, the slideshow began. I looked up at the screen, seeing the 14-year-old faces of Daryl and Ariana smiling back at us. A chuckle eased my tension a little. This was back when Ariana still had braces, and I remember that the picture had been taken right after she had gotten them. As a result, Ariana was blushing profusely and covering her face in embarrassment. The next picture popped up, their first summer at Disneyland together. If you were looking closely in the background, you saw Barry and me face to face, and it looked like we were screaming at each other. It wasn't my fault. Barry bumped into me and made me drop my frozen banana. I felt my mood easing a little more when the next pictures came up. Little wallet photos of Daryl and Ariana from proms and homecomings long past. The hot colors of red, orange, and yellow seemed to blind people as those pictures showed up, explaining why I looked like such a fool in my own bridesmaid's dress. I remember how we passed pictures of ourselves in our formal gowns and scribbling cute notes of "Friends Forever" on the back of them. Daryl and Ariana grew up right in front of our very eyes, a sight to truly bring loving parents to their knees with pride. I watched pictures of them hugging in their graduation gowns, and then pictures of them hugging in a coffee shop in their college sweatshirts. I stared at the screen when a group photo popped up. Ariana stood in the middle with Daryl on her left, and his arm around her shoulders. Cecilia looked proudly with Jason on her left, while he stood next to her with a very cool look on his face. Matthew stood on Ariana's right, leaning in a little to make sure there was enough room for the people at the end to be in the picture. Barry stood on my right, all but reluctantly, and I stood closer to Matthew, smiling brightly. For the first time, I noticed that my head was turned slightly in Matthew's direction. I looked over at Jose. He nodded. It was just about time. A few miscellaneous pictures appeared on the screen, sunshine lighting up each and every one of them as the pictures graduated with Daryl and Ariana. A picture of Ariana's hand with her new engagement ring on her hand. Ariana hiding her wedding dress in the closet. Ariana's shocked face at her surprise engagement party. Photos of the dress rehearsal party. I made sure each and every one of these pictures were in chronological order. The next picture showed up on the screen, and the room fell deathly silent, except for the sounds of my pounding heart and twisting stomach. I could have sworn the lights went out when the dark picture showed up. Sounds of utter disgust and shock filled the hall. My heart began to race, but I no longer felt afraid. 7 more gruesome pictures popped up before the slideshow ended with the unceremonious click of the machine shutting off. I felt numb as I turned my body to face the rest of the bridal party. I have to say, Jason, I'm glad you listened to me when I told you to buy that digital camera from Best Buy, I said, trying not to grind my teeth to find dust. The pictures turned out great, huh? But the next time you feel like taking pictures during sex, try not to email me the wrong attachment, huh? I knew Jason was dangerous with his martial arts expertise, but at this point, I wouldn't have minded it if Jason had killed me. Daryl was using all of his upper body strength to keep Jason from jumping over the table and snapping my neck. But Ariana picked up her immaculate white dress and marched right over to me. She didn't even stop as she slapped me clear across the face. I just let her hit me as much as she wanted to, scarring me and leaving traces of my blood on her dress. If she was going to be a monster to me, then I was going to be the one to let her do it. Cora and Kelly pulled her off of me and let me have a chance to wipe my bloody nose. Ariana's screeching screams were almost unintelligible, and I watched her from my spot on the floor as Cora and Kelly pulled her back a considerable distance. I reached for the edge of the table and pulled myself up, letting my blood fall onto my hot pink dress. Ariana stopped fighting against Cora and Kelly long enough to speak clearly to me. "How could you do this to me, Angela?" she screamed. "What have I done to you? How could you do something so horrible? I thought you were better than this!" She fought against them a little more before hanging off of their arms and sobbing. I stared back at her. Then I remembered what I really wanted to say. "I thought you were better than this too," I whispered. "Not once in our entire friendship did I think you could ever do something so sick. I never thought you would do anything like this to Daryl. I thought you were a different person than what I saw in the photo." "What? You didn't think I knew? Or that I would find out? You don't think I'm capable of wearing a mask just as good as you guys can? Well, have I got news for you. I can play the game just as good as you guys. I can pretend like nothing's wrong, and that I'm going about happily in my life like everything's perfect. Unlike you guys, I can't hold it in forever. You don't know how much my stomach turned at the thought of you two together. You have no clue how much of a dirty rat and a sneak I felt like for harboring the secret from you guys. How could you expect me to be happy about this, Ariana? How could you possibly expect me to keep the secret and go on with my life like everything was okay? I couldn't. I couldn't do it anymore. Daryl deserved to know. He loves you more than life, so I think that's all the more reason why he should know. Nobody deserves to be left in the dark like that. He deserves somebody true and loyal to him that loves him as much as he loves her." "God damn it, Ariana, Jason! His best man! Of all the people in the world, it had to be Jason. And you standing there expecting me to be sorry for what I did? Well, I'm not. I'm not sorry for anything, and I don't feel sorry for you. I'm just sorry that Cecilia and Daryl are in love with cheaters." Whenever I imagined it in my head, nobody clapped or cheered for me for my actions. Their scowls and looks of utter disgust and hatred looked towards me looked exactly like what I pictured in my head in the ensuing months before the wedding. Daryl was calm now that the other groomsmen were holding Jason down in a seat. Daryl walked slowly and calmly to us, with a look of serene purpose on his face. Ariana looked at him, patiently, waiting for him. Daryl looked her directly in the eyes, saying nothing, while she looked a little dazed. Daryl picked up her bloody hands and held them gently. He let them go for a second before he pulled out the shirt tail and began to wipe her hands with his shirt. Then he pulled her in for a hug. "Until death do us part," he whispered tenderly in her ear. My eyes were popped wide open, but my ears closed up, blocking out most of the happy cheering and hooting. They celebrated them. They celebrated his loyalty to her. They celebrated her endurance through my disgusting act. They celebrated as Cecilia ran back into Jason's arms, cuddling him and gasping in shock and surprise as Jason fell to one knee. I turned around, not caring if I would sprain my ankle running out of the hall.